Look, I'm not gonna lie, your nervous system is out of balance. If you're getting these bizarre, mysterious physical symptoms that the doctors just can't even figure out, but are just too weird to be anxiety, your nervous system has gotten really good at being anxious. And the idea is that if you can learn to be anxious, well then maybe you can learn how to calm down. In this video, I want to teach you how to strengthen your parasympathetic response so that you can calm your anxiety. So let's get started. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Shaan. We help people around the world overcome their symptoms, their panic attacks, the intrusive thoughts, the mysterious physical symptoms. We want you to live a life that's free and as full as you want it to be. And so if you're new on the channel and you want to figure out, okay, well, what are the mechanics of this? How does recovery look like from a long view, from like an overview perspective? I'll put a link down below to a free ebook that I've written, breaking recovery down in its most fundamental pieces. The book is absolutely free. The link is down below. Check it out. Now, before we talk about how to strengthen your parasympathetic response, let's talk about the nervous system. I would break down the nervous system into 3 different responses. Sympathetic response is designed to protect you from threats, from danger. This is the response that, when we're talking about anxiety, a lot of people talk about. Now, the second response is what we call the shutdown response. The scientific term for it is the dorsal vagal response. So, let's think about it this way, right? You have the fight, flight, or freeze response. If you're in the middle of tribal warfare, or if you're getting chased by a tiger, or, you have something that's threatening, your body gets a surge of energy, right? Your body burns through a lot of resources. But what happens if the tiger catches you? What happens if the lion catches you and there's nowhere to run? It's nothing to do. Well, then this response happens. This response prevents you from experiencing pain. Think of it as like a mental airbag that goes off. It's just designed to protect you from the trauma that's happening right now. It's also a way to conserve energy. So if you notice, when you see an animal and it freezes up, and it might have that one opportunity to run away, basically what it's doing is conserving all of his energy and then trying to make that run. Or, like I mentioned, if they can't escape, there's not much you can do. It's a mental airbag to protect them from the trauma. Now, the third response, the relaxation response. Now, this happens when life is good, when there's nothing to be stressed about. You've been fed, you're calm, you feel safe, there's no threat, there's nothing wrong, life is good, you have good friends, everything is going your way, there's nothing bad's going on. The most important thing to understand is that it's the third response that, a lot of people want to achieve. When you're not experiencing anxiety, when you're feeling calm, when you're feeling relaxed, when everything is good. Now, the truth is that when you're dealing with anxiety, you're really experiencing the sympathetic response, the first response we mentioned. When you do that for long enough, you'll start experiencing the second response where you start feeling dissociated, you start experiencing depersonalization, derealization. So these are 3 responses to understand when you're focusing on the recovery journey, when you're focusing on the healing journey. Now, the truth is that each response is like a muscle in itself, right? And so because you're on this journey, because you're struggling with anxiety, your first response has gotten really strong, your fight, flight, or freeze response. You've almost developed a form of imbalance. And so how do you strengthen the other response, the relaxation response? Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. I have found the best way to do it is through education, is through helping you understand what's truly going on. Why are you experiencing these symptoms? What is creating this cycle? Even something as simple as that, just educating you on helping you understand what's going on, can help you start stimulating that parasympathetic response. And what happens over time is that because you're learning the mechanics of anxiety, what happens is that your belief structures change. For example, if you're experiencing heart palpitations and you feel like your heart palpitations is the onset of a heart attack, well, helping you understand that the heart palpitations is just adrenaline burning itself off, and you panicking about it, or you getting worried, or you thinking that it's because, there's an onset of a heart attack, well, that's what's constantly fueling it. And all you need to do is just let the heart burn off as much as it wants, recognize your heart is strong, that it's designed for this, you just need to let it pass. It'll subside on its own. Helping you understand what's going on naturally starts turning on the parasympathetic response. Once you start realizing, oh my God, This isn't being caused because, there's a defect in my heart. I'm just experiencing excess adrenaline because my nervous system is sensitized and it's just manifesting in heart palpitations. I just need to let the heart palpitations burn itself off. Just by knowing that, you are starting to activate the parasympathetic mode, the parasympathetic response. What you're doing is you're rebuilding a muscle. And in the same way you can't build a muscle overnight, in the same way you can't build this response overnight. But what happens over time is that as you learn to change the beliefs, this is what causes the symptoms to lift. Now, that's the first part, which is helping you understand the mechanics of anxiety and recognizing that, regulating your nervous system isn't just about doing breathing techniques or yoga or meditation. It's also these small things, even ideas of education, of belief, of understanding what's happening will already provide so much relief. Now, the second thing I want to mention is that while belief structures and all these things are also good, it's also important that the best way to strengthen your parasympathetic response is by experiencing the trigger. Have you ever had that in your life where, you were gonna do something and you were just terrified of doing that one thing, whatever it was? When I was struggling with anxiety, I couldn't keep a job. Anytime I had a job, I would get fired because I couldn't stay in a job. I couldn't stay at work for more than 4 hours because I would start experiencing panic, so I would go home. I would just leave whatever I was doing and just going home. And so my managers were like, why do you keep going home? If you keep doing that, we're gonna have to fire you. And I couldn't tell them that I was struggling with anxiety. As I was learning the principles of recovery and I let my symptoms be there and I stayed at work, what I would find is, yes, my symptoms would go up, but I saw them also start coming down. If I just stayed at work, if I didn't run away, if I didn't escape, if I let the symptoms be there. And what happened was that because I went through that experience, and I went through that experience a few times, I started realizing, wait, I think I can do this. All it is that I'm just running away from a feeling. So if I can just let the symptoms be there without fighting it, without trying to fix it, and just continuing on to do the work the best I can, well, that's all I need to do. Now, what was happening behind the scenes was that I was actually strengthening my parasympathetic nervous system. I was doing it on its own. I wasn't doing breathing techniques. I wasn't doing yoga. I wasn't doing diet changes. And yet I was still making progress. I was still strengthening that vagus nerve, that parasympathetic response. Now, the last thing I'll mention, I talked about how you don't need to do, diet changes, exercise, meditation, all these things. The truth is that you can do all these things. Now, here's the honest truth. The reason why I don't talk about these things, and honestly, the reason why I don't really promote these things is for a couple of reasons. Number one, if I'm being fully transparent with you, once I started focusing on the principles of recovery, I didn't have to do any of those things. So I can't attribute my recovery to any of those things. So because I can't attribute my recovery or when I'm helping people, these things, to them, there's no reason for me to tell you something different than what I did or what I help my clients with. The second thing is that the reason why it didn't help me was because I was using it incorrectly. I was thinking if I just meditated, if I just did yoga, if I just, did these walks, if I did grounding techniques, that was automatically going to make me feel better. But what I was really doing was that I was using these things as a shield from feeling the emotions, from feeling the discomfort, from feeling the symptoms. If you want to do breathing exercises, if you want to do diet, if you want to do grounding techniques, that's fine. And the truth is that these things can help, but you can't use them incorrectly. If you use them as a way to escape, if you use them as a shield from feeling your symptoms, if your intentions are not correct, they don't help. And people get frustrated. And then they're like, oh my God, I've tried all these different things and none of it works. You know why I'm experiencing this? It's probably because of some genetic issue, or maybe I have a chemical imbalance, or maybe, there's something wrong with my autonomic nervous system. But it's none of those things. And so if you can learn how to respond, you'll naturally strengthen that vagal tone, that vagus nerve, right? Which is involved with the parasympathetic response, this rest and digest mode. And what happens is you'll get balanced on your own. So I hope this video helps. If you want to focus on the 5 steps of overcoming these symptoms once and for all, make sure to check out this video up here. I'll see you in the next one.